Hello and welcome back to Grad Chat, the podcast where I talk to graduates from the UCA Film Production course. Today I am speaking to Zoe, who only graduated about a year ago. She's already worked on a number of productions as a production assistant whilst at university and after university, including The Favourite and the recent Netflix Eurovision movie, which we will discuss. We also talk about her aspirations for the future, including her short film that she is currently co-directing. You can find the Kickstarter link to that in the description below. And we talk about the trials and tribulations of working in the film industry. So without further ado, here is Zoe.
Hi, I'm Zoë Ellender. I graduated in 2019 and I currently work in the production department on high budget features as a production assistant. I also direct, or I'm trying to direct, indie shorts on the side. So the combination of the two things.
Let's start with your journey through UCA. So you joined at year one. How was your uni experience?
It was good. I really enjoyed being immersed in like groups of creative people because I went to a very academic school and I think I never really experienced that. And I think that was really refreshing for me, and it really like opened up my eyes to like this whole opportunity of like, wow, I can just talk to these people about like making a film and we can just do it. And that was really nice and new. I enjoyed the course. There were some things that maybe I enjoyed more than others, but those ones I really like got stuck into, and that was nice.
Did you feel that you wanted to go into the sort of production side of things while you're at university, or did that come after graduating?
It was really weird. I had this really massive love-hate relationship with production where I think I was quite good at it at uni. Like I was very organised. I'm so modest. I was very organised and like I actually really enjoyed the paperwork and like doing all of that stuff. But I also felt so restricted in my creativity with that. I think maybe I was getting frustrated with it. So I would often end up being a producer or doing production-y things on the projects at uni, but would not like it because I was like, oh, but I want to be really creative in that. And there were opportunities where I could do that, but I think maybe I wanted more out of it. And I went down the sound specialism route as well, which I did because it was a skill-based specialism, and I thought that would be really useful to know, and I was interested in sound, so I was like, why not? And I had a great time. Like I really, really enjoyed learning all of that. But I think one thing that it really, really made me realize was that I didn't want to do sound, but more than that, I think it made me realize that you can switch so much between like subjects and between career paths within film, because once you learn one skill, that doesn't mean you have to be stuck in that. It can so be transferred over to other elements of filmmaking. And actually it really helped me like understand that and learn that, which was nice, and has actually helped me to get around the fact that I'm probably not going to be in production for the rest of my career, and I know that because I kind of had that experience in a smaller scale at uni. Did
you have any work experience while you were at university?
Yeah, I did. I was really lucky actually. I had complete nepotism. I was like had loads of people in my sort of family friend network that worked in film, or they were like screenwriters or editors, and knew people more than like directly I was working for them. They knew other people that they could put me in touch with. So throughout first, second and third year, I was lucky enough to have a few opportunities to work on, like do 2 weeks or a week here and there and work on industry productions. And in second year I did loads of like live TV and like talent show TV stuff, which was completely different. Felt like a whole different world to what I was learning at uni, because live TV is so different.
So first of all, what role were you working as on these films? And tell me the difference between the roles on a film set and the roles on live TV.
In anything I was doing in film, I was always in production. I was working as a production trainee or a production assistant. On live TV, I'd be working as a floor runner or a production runner. I guess they're probably exactly the same thing, except in live TV, you're a lot more on standby. Like, people will get you to do, like, any department will be like, okay, there's a runner, let's go get her to do something. Whereas in film, I would very much be like kept with production, and like there would be an element of, okay, this department might need this doing for them, but I think it was a lot more sort of on live TV, where people would just grab you and you do it, and it would just be off in so many different places all the time.
How did you find the adjustment moving from working on student film sets to working in the real world, as it were?
I think probably I struggled a little bit, actually. Coming back to the creativity side of things, I think it was really hard to come to terms with how uncreative it can be working in the industry generally, especially at the low level that you go into, because you're doing HOD roles a lot of the time at uni. You kind of, I mean, I didn't expect to then go in and be like some sort of amazing director when I first start out, but there was maybe an expectation that you would have a little bit more respect than you do get. And it can be really hard to adjust to that. And also, a lot of people that I worked with when I first sort of went into the industry, they'd all worked together before. And so I felt like this kind of newcomer who was jumping into groups of people who already knew each other. And that can be quite hard, especially I'm someone who's maybe a bit more shy than other people are. And so I find it a little bit harder to make friends and to make those connections.
How did you go about that then? So you sort of had identified that in yourself as a weakness. How did you try and make up for that when you were working on these sets?
I think like forcing myself to go and talk to people and like ask questions and interact and put myself out there at any opportunity I got, and like being aware, okay, don't just go and stand in the corner over there and like wait for someone to say something to you. Like just go and say something to someone. Can I help you? Or like, what are you, if someone's not, as long as you're not interrupting what they're doing, if someone's just sort of stood there like, what do you do? What are you doing here at the moment? Hi, I'm Zoe, I'm a production assistant. I think by actively trying to do that, which got easier as I went through. I think at first I was very much like, I can't approach anyone, I'm too scared. But as you sort of become used to the environment of the set a little bit more, I think that was nice, because you get used to like where things are and where people are, and then you can kind of approach the people who look like they're not busy at a particular moment and just go and start a chat with them. And also like other young people as well. A lot of young people were kind of in like assistant roles, like video assistant and DIT assistants on Eurovision. They were like quite young, and so I was able to just go over and be like, hi, we're two young people, let's have a chat, and actually found out that one of them was really interested in going down the directing route, and like there was a connection we had over that and chatting creatively. So yeah, once you kind of made that once I kind of made that effort to like go and talk to people, it became better. But I think that initial like nervousness on a set is just like really difficult to get over.
So you mentioned Eurovision, so we'll come to that in a little bit. So you graduated. Something that's very difficult to get across in this is that your experience and also my experience of graduating is going to be different to the students at the moment, because what we didn't have to deal with on top of everything with graduating and getting your first jobs and all of this is there's a global pandemic on, which no one really saw coming. But, let's go back almost a year now to June 2019. And talk me through, like, how did you feel about graduating and what were your first steps into the industry?
I think probably I had, throughout all of my life, had this idea that after I graduated I was going to go traveling and I was going to go and like enjoy my life for like one last bit before going into work, and that just entirely didn't happen. I was lucky enough actually to be able to be offered Eurovision like pretty much straight out of uni, and so
Eurovision, just for anyone that isn't aware,
Eurovision is a Netflix feature that was meant to be coming out in May, but is now being postponed because of the pandemic. It's about Eurovision, so.
And Eurovision, for the people that aren't aware, is
Eurovision is a popular European music contest that is broadcast every May, I think. And it's a lot of fun. It's very camp, and it's very like entertaining to watch. And yeah, it's good. And this is like a Will Ferrell Netflix version of Eurovision. Basically, they've like completely recreated it, and I think it will probably be funny. Actually, I honestly do believe. Did
you when you're sort of working on a set like this is a project that I've been quite interested in because I am a fairly large Eurovision fan. So as soon as you mentioned it to me, and I remember when you mentioned it to me, and I had a lot of questions. Do you get a sense whether what you're working on is going to be good or not?
Yes, I think partly because all the people that you're working with who have been in the industry for a lot longer than I had been had an idea of what it was going to be like, and they would always be making comments and like, oh, this is going to be trash, or like, and I think that's interesting to pick up on because people who have had films they've worked on and then they've been released, and like being able to know during that shoot period whether it's going to be good, they've got that experience more than I had. And so hearing their thoughts on it was quite interesting. I think that it's very much like, I think it's difficult to know because there are certainly some moments in the filming where you look at a scene, you're like, this is amazing, like this is so funny, they've really smashed it, like those really organic Will Ferrell comedy moments where he just like goes off on some like improvisation thing where every single take was completely different. He would say a completely different thing each take, which is probably a nightmare for the edit, but you don't know whether they're going to include those moments in the edit, and you don't know whether those are going to come across in like on TV or in cinema or on TV. Like I think it's a lot funnier in person, those specifically for comedies, I think, so it can be interesting. But like in terms of the quality of it, you could definitely see it. You could see like they would do little quick edits or little rough cuts of like the VFX moments that they'd shot. I mean, they'd literally do them like the day after, like little rough VFX cuts, and they looked amazing, like considering that it was just like random stunt doubles like lying on a stage and then a ball just sort of like there's so many little moments. Sorry, now I'm giving a lot away there.
How did you go about getting these jobs after uni? Actually,
this Eurovision I got through one of those Facebook groups. I did have a vague connection to the person I was contacting on the Facebook group. Like the oh god, I can't even remember what they're called. Those, you know, the Facebook groups.
Mm-hmm. London-based runners.
Yeah, like those ones. And I would just go on for like through that kind of weird period at the end of third year where you've just handed everything in, but you're still technically doing uni, and it's really kind of like this sort of piece after the stress of third year, but you haven't officially finished. During that time, I got really obsessed with making sure that I was going to jump straight into something after I came to the realization that I probably wouldn't travel and do what my dream had always been. So I would like apply every day pretty much for like at least 3 jobs, even if they weren't directly related to like film, or they were like in live TV, or they were in something completely random, just money, and also just to get myself out there and build up my CV. Hannah Cole, a graduate of UCA, had worked with this guy called Steve, and she said, Steve's put up this Facebook post, you should just get in touch with him. And so I followed the link on the Facebook post to his email and just sent it over, and he got me in for an interview, which was more of like, I travelled for maybe like an hour and a half to get to this place, and the interview lasted about 10 minutes, and he was just like, so your CV looks cool, this is interesting, yeah, blah blah blah, talk about that, this is interesting, yeah, blah blah, talk about that, and then that was the end. Like it was so
I feel like situations like that are going to disappear in a sort of post COVID-19 world.
Yeah, I think so.
Where I think we've realised that Zoom exists and Skype exists, and you can just have a 10-minute chat with anyone.
I think it would have been so much easier if that had happened.
Going back to applying for jobs, how did you go about it? So you would wake up and you mentioned you'd sort of apply for 3 jobs a day. So was that a target that you set every single day?
Yeah, I think I had this general idea of like making sure that if I didn't do anything else in a day, I would apply for a certain amount of jobs. If I was feeling really naff, or if there wasn't much on any of these Facebook groups, then it would maybe be 1, but like I would try and aim for as many as I could, which usually was about 3.
Were these a mixture of freelance jobs and full-time jobs?
Yeah, so some of them were like literally we need a runner for a day, last minute film and TV jobs or something like that. That one was quite good because people would often be really desperate, and so like if you got in there soon enough, people would be like, okay, yeah, we'll take you. So those were like often like would be a day or 2 days here and there. And then also contracted jobs where it would be like production assistant roles with a production company for like 6 months or something, not even necessarily on a specific film, but more like an in-house runner situation, or in-house production assistant. So yeah, a complete variety of jobs. And
how did you keep your motivation up?
I guess it was just, it's difficult. I'm the sort of person who can very easily become unmotivated if I don't have like a specific end goal in sight. So like when I'm working on a film and there's a deadline for that, I'm really motivated to get to that point. But if I'm making a film and there's no direct deadline, I want to do it still, but I'm like, I could do it tomorrow, or like you just kind of push it back and back, even though you are passionate and excited about it. You're just like, not today. Which is sort of what's happening at the moment with the film I'm working on. So yeah, it's interesting for me to analyze myself and how I work. But yeah, it was finding motivation. I guess I just knew that I needed money and I wanted to live in London. And I was lucky enough to be raised in London, so I would have had a house living back with my parents, but I really wanted to be able to branch out and live by myself and find that independence and really like, yeah, sort of crack on with my own life rather than going back and getting all cozy with my parents, which is exactly what would happen. I would just settle into that lifestyle again. So I guess I had that kind of motivation. I was like, right, well, I need work because I need money because I want to live in London, so like by myself. So I thought that was kind of probably what drove me forward in that way.
So that kind of ties into my next question, which is how do you look after your mental and physical health? How important do you think looking after your mental and physical health when you're doing the jobs that you're doing as a production? You know, you're doing long hours, you're driving around for an hour and a half for a 10-minute interview. How important is it to look after your mental state and your physical state?
So important. I mean, I'm sure everyone says this, but like I think that it's so easy to I mean, on Eurovision we were doing like split days where we would start sort of mid to late, we'd start like late morning, like 11, and we would finish at like midnight in the evening, and you just like there's no time for you to just be in your home enjoying your evening or I don't know, it's just endless, these endless days where you just wake up, you go to work, you come back, you sleep, you wake up, like it's just there's no break there. And obviously that can't always be helped, but I think in those times where you do get those breaks and you do have those opportunities, like either after a job or on weekends, I think just like making sure that you're doing things that you love and being with people that you want to be around in those periods, I think is like just important, and exercising and eating healthily, because set food is so unhealthy.
I think you touched on having a support network. So I know that you have a pretty decent support network where you live, because you live with three other UCA graduates from your year group.
Yeah.
at the moment, and it's very important to just talk about
Definitely.
experiences that you have, and also to respect, because you're all working in a similar field. You understand the effort and the experiences that you're all going through. So if you arrive home at sort of 1 a.m, your housemates know not to annoy you, and vice versa. If they come home at whatever time, you know not to touch on certain things, and to just talk to each other. I think that's important, even if you don't live with people that share similar experiences with you. I think it's still important to stay in touch with people and just chat about your experiences. If you have a bad experience, just to chat about it. So, big question next is, what's next for you? Obviously, everything is very uncertain, so it's a difficult question to answer. But you're just at the beginning of your journey, so you only graduated just under a year ago. After a year of sort of working as a production runner, what hopes and aspirations do you have?
I hope and aspire to not be a production assistant anymore. I think it's a really, really useful starting point to jump into the industry, and it's probably almost a necessity no matter what route in the industry you want to go down to do that, because you get such a wide understanding of how industry sets work, which are very different to uni sets, I would say. I am currently furloughed. I was on Fantastic Beasts for 2 months before this all happened, so I guess probably in the near future I'm just going to jump straight back onto that as a production assistant for the shoot I think is meant to be 6 months, so probably doing that. And then after that I'm hoping to try and broaden out and go down more of a director's assistant route, which is something that I would love to explore. I think it might be quite a nice blend of learning from a director and shadowing a director, and also doing the sort of production-y stuff that I enjoyed at uni, which was the organisation and those kinds of things. So I think that's sort of as much in the future as I can process at the moment, is kind of my next step after production assisting, that I want to explore. And also I'm working on a short at the moment with someone I met on Eurovision actually, and we're sort of going through the prep process as much as we can during this pandemic, which is hard because you can't go on location recce's or do any of that stuff, but it's nice to be involved creatively with someone to keep you kind of engaged in that way. So that's kind of what's next at the moment, but like you say, it's very, very, very up in the air.
You mentioned a pro there of working in the industry, which is you meet at whatever level you're at, is you meet fellow creatives and you get a creative spark, and you mentioned that you're working on a short film with someone that you met. What are if you could list some pros and cons of your time so far working in the industry as at production assistant level, what would you say they are?
Like you just said, meeting people who are young, but have had different experiences of their industry work, so have different perceptions of what the next step might be. And for example, she was talking a lot about wanting to go down this director's assistant route, which was then I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's something I can explore, and now that's kind of the route that I want to take. So having that guidance from other people in an environment where you're basically like locked together with this same group is nice. As a production assistant, you get to just like run off and be on. I mean, I don't know whether I was meant to do this, but often I would just go, there would be like a time, like an hour or so, where I wasn't really doing anything, and I'd be like, all right, I'm off to set, bye, and I'd like hop down, and I would literally just stand there watching what was happening. Being able to do that has like completely opened my eyes to how proper sets run and how large groups of people work together and how the different departments are divided up, and just going and talking to random people in different departments has like been invaluable.
I would one of my first experiences after graduating, I signed up as an extra, and I felt that it was excellent homework to just observe and listen and watch as to how the departments interact with each other, how heads of departments work, how the structure of a film set. I found that invaluable.
Yeah, I guess a production assistant isn't actually like far off that in terms of being able to just go and watch what's happening. You're not maybe directly involved with any of it, just like an extra wouldn't be involved in the actual making of, like, as in the actual crafting of the film, but you do get to just watch and see what's going on, and I think that's such a useful experience to have. And meeting like-minded, I mean, it's hard because a lot of people on film sets they do this as this is just a job to them, a lot of people, and that's not a bad thing. People want to do that as a career path, but it becomes very much a kind of, okay, I'm set in this role. For example, an assistant production coordinator on Eurovision, he didn't want to move up. He was so content as an assistant production coordinator. He was just doing what he wanted to do. He treated it entirely as a job. There was no like creative interest for him. This was just like a way to make money and to live a good life, fulfilling life. And I think a lot of people do treat working in the industry like that because it's pretty good money and it's like an interesting environment to be in. So when you meet other people who are a lot more creatively inclined, that's really exciting because you get to, it kind of reinstigates why you got into the industry if that's the way you want to go, which is like, for me, I want to continue being creative and I want to eventually direct. And so meeting other people who have that is like, oh wow, okay, there are other people, and it's important to remember that they do exist. Sometimes it can be easy to forget when people are like, all right, that's the end of the day, I've got my money, I'm off. Like, it's just, yeah, I think that's just something that's completely off topic, but I think that was just a thing I wanted to say. It's important to remember that there are other people like that, even if it may not at first seem that way.
Last question. One tip to year threes who are graduating and master's students right now who are graduating, or, all the years below, because I don't know who this is going out to yet. It might be going out to everyone. So if you have any tips for students that are halfway through the course or just starting the course, right up to the year threes and the master's students who will be graduating around this time.
So for people who are still doing the course and have still got a few more years to go, I think just using summer holidays to like go and get industry work, even if it's for a week, even if it's for a couple of days, mix that up with going on holiday and having fun, of course, but like I just think that was such a beneficial thing for me to have done, to be able to get to third year and immediately to graduate and immediately jump into a job. I think that was like an invaluable thing to do. So I would definitely recommend that as a top tip. For people who are graduating, I think just give it a chance. If you go into the industry and it's not working for you, or it's not maybe as you had thought or hoped it would be for those first few weeks in a job, for example, just stick with it, because I found the first 3 weeks of Eurovision really hard, and then after that I was having a whale of a time and like really enjoyed the people I was working with. And I think if my mum hadn't told me to just stick with it, it will get better, like with any job, I guess, not just specific to the industry, that was just such a useful piece of advice, because it did get so much better and I did end up making so many good contacts and meeting so many interesting people. So that would be it, just stick with it.
Thank you very much, Zoe, for taking the time out to talk to me. I hope you all found that insightful. Once again, you can find the Kickstarter link for Zoe's most recent project in the description below, and if you want to contact me, you can send me an email at andrew.newman@uca.ac.uk. But until next time, I will see you soon. Take care. I forgot the battery life capabilities of this camcorder.
Oh, that's a shame. Was it fully charged when it died?
No, I didn't charge it overnight because I thought it would be able to last.
The error, Andy.
I know. I thought it would be able to last an hour and a half.
Gutted.
Or I'll put a screenshot and then sort of like
Do a screenshot of you taking a sip from your
Yes.